I'm Tonge, and welcome to my session of Sensory Stories and Smiles, an offer of stories and magic and connection, specially designed for listeners who are hungry for senses and experience in their ears and on the surface of their bodies. Here's my story box. Let's have a look what's inside. Now, to tell this story, you just need some simple things that you can find at home. A dark cloth. It could be a scarf, it could be a dark coat. A fan or something that can waft and make a breeze. This is a funny hat, but it works really well as a fan. An orange, satsuma, tangerine, something from the fruit bowl. A box. Now this is a lovely box because it's got lots of carvings on the top. It was a present given to me a long time ago. But any box would do, even an empty tea bag box. A washing up brush, something that prickles, something with texture. Some paper, newspaper or an old envelope, something that scrunches and rattles. An ice pack, cold to the touch. And maybe, if you've got it, something that sparkles. I've got these little gems, little plastic gems, but it might be that you've got some tinsel. And when you've got all these things ready, find a cosy spot and then join me with telling the story of Crow Finds the Sun. And so now we're ready to begin. Once upon a time, the world was dark. It was dark everywhere. The world was enveloped in dark, dark, darkness. The sun didn't shine and nobody could see because it was dark. Everybody was wrapped up in dark, dark, darkness. Day and night it was dark. Why was it dark? Well, somebody had stolen the bright, round, orange sun. The bright, round, orange sun that rolled through the sky and lit up the world and gave animals light to go hunting by and made the crops grow. That bright, orange sun had gone. And so it was dark. So it was dark, dark, dark. The sun had been stolen. Maybe you can play a game of stealing the sun. The sun had been stolen. Grandfather Winter, with his long bony fingers, his icy beard and his frosty eyebrows, had crept up and he had plucked the sun from the sky and stolen it. Grandfather Winter had grabbed that sun and hidden it in a box. He'd taken the sun, put it in the box and snapped the lid shut. Just like that. Maybe you can have fun putting the sun in the box and snapping the lid shut. What a great sound. And Grandfather Winter, with his long bony fingers and his icy beard and his frosty eyebrows, had taken that sun all the way to his home in the North Pole and had hidden it. And the sun was gone. And it was dark, 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 dark everywhere. Well, all the animals had a meeting. What were they going to do? The sun had gone. They couldn't see to hunt. The fish couldn't see to swim. The birds were flying into trees. It was a terrible catastrophe. And the animals had a big meeting. And it went like this. Chat, 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 natter, 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 chat, chat, chat. And the cows, they mooed, moo. And the tigers roared, rah. And the elephants trumpeted, and the sheep, they bleated, bah, 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 bah. And the chickens, they clucked, bah, 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 what to do. What were they going to do? And then Crow, with her long wings, her bright sharp feathers and her clear eyes, said, I will fly to the North Pole and I will find the sun. The animals are very excited. This was good news. And so Crow stretched out her wings, and the very next day she began to flip, flap and fly. And maybe you can sense the breeze as Crow's wings flapped and flew all the way through the sky and headed north, 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 right up to the North Pole. Oh, she flew, her wings were strong and her feathers ruffled, and the breeze grew colder and colder. And Crow landed in the icy North Pole. It was cold underneath her feet. It was chilly. It was icy. It was shiversome. Oh, it was cold, cold, cold. And Crow landed on the cold, cold surface, and she folded in her feathers, and on her clever claws, Crow crept across the ice and the snow. Her clever claws crept across the crunching ground. Maybe you can hear the sound of the snow and the ice under Crow's clever claws. Maybe you can creep in time with the story. Clever claws creeping across the chilly, cold, icy North Pole. The ground sparkled and shone with icicles that glinted like Christmas tree tinsel, like dazzling diamonds, as Crow's clever claws crept, and the world sparkled, and the world shone with the diamond-like ice. Crow's clever claws crept on, and the ground was rough underneath her feet. The ice was sharp, the rocks were cold, and Crow's clever claws crept on with her wings folded in tightly. She crept her way across the ice, crunching, following her beak all the way to Grandfather Winter's house. And when she arrived at Grandfather Winter's house, there was a candle flickering in the window, and Crow peered through a little chink in the window. She peered in through a little tiny chink, and in the light of the fire, she could see Grandfather Winter sat in his chair, and on his lap he had the box. Can you remember what was in the box? He had the box on his lap, and Grandfather Winter was rolling the sunshine in his hands. Ho, ho, the sun is mine, bright and orange, round and rolling. What a delight for me to have that bright orange sun Oh, it feels so good to have that bright sun all to myself. And then Grandfather Winter yawned. Time for bed, he said. And he took the sun and he popped the sun safely back in the box and he shut the lid. And then Grandfather Winter put his head on the pillow of his bed and fell fast asleep. His snores made his icy beard shiver. His snores rattled his frosty eyebrows. And Crow, who was peering through that little tiny crack, saw that it was her moment. And on her clever claws, she crept into the house of Grandfather Winter. And she crept over to where that box was. And with her deft claws, she scrabbled to open that box. And she flung open the lid of the box, and there inside was the sun. She grabbed that sun. She took that sun between her claws. And then she crept out of Grandfather Winter's house. She spread her wings and holding on tight to the sun, she began to fly. Oh, she flew and it felt so good to be travelling home with the wind underneath her wings and her feathers ruffling, heading home with the sun. Can you feel that wind beating? Can you feel the power of Crow's strong wings as she headed home with the sun? How do you think it would feel to hold the sun in your claws? Would it feel hot or would it feel cold? It felt hot. It felt scorching hot. It felt piping hot. It felt blistering hot. It felt red hot. It felt roasting hot. It felt hotter than hot. And Crow was trying to hold on to that sun, but oh boy, it was hot. Oh. And although Crow was flying over icy landscapes, she couldn't hold on to that sun. And Crow began to drop the sun. And when Crow dropped the sun, it fell to the earth and a little bit of sun broke off. Just a little bit, and it broke off and it landed on the earth. And Crow would pick up the sun and she would fly some more, but that sun was hot, and maybe you can throw that sun between you, seeing if you can catch it. Because it was hot, and every time that sun landed, a little bit more sun broke off. And a little bit more broke off, and Crow would pick that sun up again and again and again, but each time more and more sun broke off. Slivers and slices, fragments of sun, big pieces and little pieces. And they were scattered way below on the earth. And the sun began to break into lots of pieces. Lots and lots of slices and slivers of juicy sun. Now a little bit of sun landed in Scotland, where it's a little bit warm. And a little bit more sun landed down on the south coast of Cornwall. Maybe you've been there for a holiday, where it's a little bit warmer. And 2 pieces of sun, well, they landed in Spain. It can be very, very warm in Spain, so they got quite a lot of sun. And then a whole huge chunk of sun landed in a country that we call Ethiopia, in the continent of Africa, where it's very, very hot, where there's lots and lots of sun. And the sun returned to the earth, and the animals were happy. And that is our story finished. I hope you enjoyed that. And maybe you want to have a little bit of time now to play with some of our textures, with some of our tickles, and maybe you'd enjoy eating that story. Maybe you don't fancy eating it, but a little bit of orange juice on your lips can be very tasty. Maybe you'd like to smell that story. And don't forget that the peel of the orange smells good too. And I bet that that story